This year we're going to work not just on one-step and two-step equations, but what we're going to call multi-step equations. And in part of that is that we have to talk about what's called the distributive property. All right, so you have your notes in front of you. Here we go. So the distributive property says this. If you have a number or a variable or whatever outside of parentheses, you can what's called, can you switch me to pen? You can what's called distribute that number to both of the terms on the inside. So if you have 5 times 2 plus 4, you can go 5 times 2, which is 10. I'm going to write it. 5 times 2, which is 10. And then you do 5 times the 4, which is going to be what? Positive 20. How do I know that that it's positive 20 and not minus 20? Anybody? The reason I know this is a plus 20 is because this is a positive number and this is a positive number. And when I multiply two positive numbers together, I get a positive number. And then 10 plus 20 is 30. So this is the distributive property. Let me show you again. I'm going to distribute the negative 2 to both 3x and positive 9. So what's negative 2 times 3x? Anybody? Don't worry about the x. Just do negative 2 times 3. What's negative 2 times 3? Negative 6. So negative 2 times 3x is negative 6x. So negative 6x. And then what's negative 2 times positive 9? Negative 18. So what do I write next to negative 6x? Minus 18. And I can't combine these things because they're not what are called like terms. Let's continue. I'm going to distribute the 4. You should be doing this on your paper as well. What's 4 times x? 4x. 4x. And then 4 times negative 7 is what? Again, you can be using your calculator. Negative 28. So what do I write here? Minus 28. Why do I say minus 28, not negative 28? Even though they're the same thing. Because there's a number right here. There's a term right here, 4x. If this 4x was not here, I would call this negative 28. But since it is there, I call it 4x minus 28. Moving on. I'm going to distribute the negative 10 to both of these terms. So guys, now that we're getting the hang of this a little bit better, what's negative 10 times negative 4x? 40x. Good. 40x. Okay, and then I have to distribute the negative 10 to the 14 as well. What's negative 10 times 14? Negative 140. So I write minus 140. Can I combine these two terms together, 40x and 40x minus 140? I can't because they're not like terms. The reason why they're not like terms is because one of them has an x in it while the other one does not. Let's continue. I'm going to distribute negative 6. What's negative 6 times x, guys? Negative 6x. And then what's negative 6 times negative 2? What's that? A negative times a negative gives me a positive. So what do I write next to negative 6x? Plus 12. Again, how do I know there's a plus sign here, not a negative? Because a negative times a negative gives me a positive number. Everybody good? Moving on. Now this one, guys, there's only a negative sign, but actually there's an invisible number. There's an invisible 1. So really what we're going to distribute here is negative 1. So what's negative 1 times 5x? Negative 5x, because it's going to change the sign, right? So negative 5x, and then negative 1 times 13 gives me what? Negative 13. Very good. Very good. Any questions on that, guys? So that's the distributive property. It's a very important thing. We're going to go over it a ton this year. We're going to use it a lot. Now let's talk about what are called like terms. All right, so here's how this works. 2x plus 5x, 2x and 5x are like terms, and the reason why they're like terms is because they both have an x in them. So I can combine them. So think about it, don't think about it in terms of x, think about it in terms of apples. If you have 2 apples and you add 5 apples to your group, how many apples do you have? 7. So 2x plus 5x is 7x. Write that down. Good? Let's do the next part. This time I have 3 terms. Even though there's 3, they're all the same kind of term, right? Because they all have an x attached. So let's do it. What's 9x plus 6x? 15x. And then what's 15x minus 2x? 13x. Very good. Continuing on. This next expression has 4 terms, but they're not all the same term, are they? Kind of term, are they? Because 2 of them have x's and 2 of them have y's. So I can combine the things that have x's together, and then I combine the things that have y's together. So let's start with the x. So what's 5x? And do I do minus 2x or do I do plus 2x? Why the plus and not the minus? This plus sign right here tells me what to do with this. This minus sign tells me what to do with what? The 6y. So this is 5x plus 2x, which is 7x. Yes? And then, so I'm done. So when I have multiple things going on, sometimes it's a really good idea to cross things out to sort of keep track of where you are. Then I do negative 6y plus 9y to give me what? What do I? That's negative 6 plus 9, which is 3. So what do I write? Plus, how do I know to write plus 3y? Because it's a positive number. Yes? Good. Let's continue. This one, okay, I have x's that are the same, so let's do that. What's negative 3x plus 5x? 2x. And then I have this negative 4 here. Is there anything to combine with that? No, so I just bring it down, write it next to it, and I cannot combine these two because they're not like terms. Guys, why couldn't I combine 7x and 3y? Because they're not like terms. They're different. One of them is like trying to add, if you have 7 apples and 3 oranges, you don't have 10 apples then, right? You have 7 apples and 3 oranges. That's kind of the idea. All right, continuing. Here, guys, is there anything to combine with this 8 right here? There is. What? What's 8 plus 2? 10. Again, I'm going to cross out to help me keep track. All right, now what's the invisible number in front of the x here? So that's negative 1x. What's negative 1x plus 3x? Plus 2x. Very good. A vocab word here, guys. When you have a term that has a variable in it, the number in front of the variable is called the coefficient. So what's the coefficient of this term? 3. What's the coefficient of this term? Negative 1. Not 1. Gotta look at the sign. It's negative 1. You with me? Continuing. All right. For this one, guys, what do? This one's a lot more complex. And what I'm actually going to do is give us a brand new screen. All right. What does that guy say? Excuse me. 4x, sorry, minus 2 times 5x plus, pen is not working very well today. Sorry. All right. So can I combine the 4x and the 5x right away? I can't. Why not? Because one of them is in parentheses. So how do I deal with that parentheses? Is there anything that I can do? I can't. We just talked about it. What property can I use? The distributive property, absolutely. Now, what am I going to distribute? Jimmy? No. I always distribute the thing that's on the outside of the parentheses. What's the number that's on the outside of the parentheses? Directly outside the parentheses. Negative 2. So I'm going to distribute this negative 2 to the 5x and to the 3. Yes? Now, I'm not going to do anything with the 4x right off the bat. So I'm just going to bring the 4x down. So we'll worry about that in a little bit. So now we're going to distribute. So guys, what's negative 2 times 5x? Negative 10x. We good? So I'll write that down. Negative 10x. Okay. Then I'm going to distribute negative 2 and 3. What's negative 2 times 3? All right, negative 6. So I write that. Now, are there any like terms? What? The 4x and the negative 10x. So I'm going to combine those, right? So what's 4x minus 10x? Negative 6x. Bring down the other Can I combine these two terms together? Why not? Say it the way I did. They are not like terms. Why are they not like terms? Because one has an x and the other one doesn't. You can't add those together. So you would be done right there. Any questions, guys? All right, so those are the basics as far as the distributive property go and like terms go. You can only add things together, add or subtract things together that are like terms. Now when you multiply, that's a different story, and we'll get into that more a little bit later. All right, so let's go back to my sheet here. So there's this guy. I don't do it like, we're actually going to start with number 1. So go to this, turn your paper over. Oops. Oh, yours is different. Okay. All right. So, guys, I'm going to give you my best attempt on how to solve equations. It's kind of, it's an abstract concept, but I'm going to do my best. All right, you ready to go? All right. So, what we are trying to do, guys, is solve the equation, which means we want to know what x equals. X is a variable. It represents a number, and we want to know what that number is, and I'm going to try to give you some techniques to do that. All right. So number 1 is actually something that you guys probably did last year. That's just a one-step equation. There's only one thing you have to do. But I want to talk about the why things work this year. And I think if we do that, it will help you remember what to do. You know, it's better to understand something as opposed to just memorize how to do it. So here's the idea. I want to know what x is. Yes? I want x to be isolated. I want x to be all by itself. And right now, it's not. How is x, what is keeping x from being by itself right now? The positive 2, the plus 2 right next to it. I know that if I got rid of that thing, x would be by itself and I'd be done, right? So the question is, how do I get rid of that? Anybody? Yeah. I subtract 2. And here's why that's true. I know that if this number was a 0, if this says x plus 0, what is x plus 0 the same thing as? X. Because anytime you add 0 to something, it doesn't change. So I'm going to try to get 2 to become 0, right? And the way that I do that is I subtract 2. Very good. So I'm going to subtract 2 from the right-hand side, and then I subtract 2 from the left-hand side as well. Now, here's exactly how I want you to write it, guys. Put minus 2, put the line underneath, bring down the equal sign to keep track of where you are. Yes? What's negative 6 minus 2? Negative 8. Again, you're always welcome to use your calculator to do these simple arithmetic operations. I bring down the x because I haven't done anything with that. Now, guys, what's 2 minus 2? Do I have to bring plus 0 down? I'm done right there. Boom. I'm done. That's what I want to know. X is equal to negative 8. We good? Let's go to number 2. This one's a little bit more complex. So here's the idea. Again, I'm trying to figure out what x is, and what are the 2 things that are keeping x from being by itself? There's 2 things. There's the negative 2 that I need to get rid of, and what else do I need to get rid of? The 5. If you remember, last time, we are always going to go after the number that is not attached to x first. We're going to do that first. And the reason why we do that is because normally it will be a lot more simple, it will be more simple on an average basis to do that. So which of the 2 numbers, negative 2 or the 5, is not attached to x? The 5. So I'm going to go after that first. Are you with me? So how do I get rid of the 5? I don't want that to be a 5. What number do I want that to be? How do I go from 5 to 0? I subtract 5. And then I'm going to subtract 5. Right-hand side as well. Again, put your line underneath. Have I done anything with negative 2x yet? Bring that down. Guys, what's 5 minus 5? 0. Do I have to write that? I don't, so I just drop it. So negative 2x equals, what's 19 minus 5? 14. Very good. Is x by itself yet, guys? It's not. Now I need to get rid of the negative 2, and this is a big concept. What number do I want negative 2 to be? I do not want it to be 0. I do not want it to be 0, because then if it was 0, it would be 0x, and then the x would cancel. That's not what I'm trying to accomplish. I want it just to say x equals. Well, when it says x equals, what's the invisible number in front of x? It's 1. So how do I go from -2 to 1? I divide by itself. You divide by itself, because any number divided by itself is what? 1. So I'm going to divide the left-hand side by -2, and I'm going to divide the right-hand side by -2. So I get x equals -7. Now, nobody asked the question, and it's okay that you didn't, but why can't I just add 3 to -2, because that equals 1. -2 plus 3 is 1 as well. But why can't I do that? We actually just learned the concept of why we can't.
Because you have to do it to the other.
No. Why can't I just put a plus 3 under here, and then -2 plus 3 is 1? Why can't I do -2x and then put plus 3 underneath to get x, to get 1x?
Multiplication. You have to do it by the opposite.
But why? Why can't I do this? I mean, I understand that's what you do, but why can't I do this? Yes? No? We just talked about this. Yeah?
Because then it won't be negative
No?
anymore. Because
They're not like terms. That's right. These are not like terms. I can't do that. -2x and 3 aren't like terms. Mathematically, I am not allowed to do that. But like I said, you can always multiply and divide things that aren't like terms. You just can't add and subtract. That's why. Does that make sense? Good job. Good job, Elvis. All right, let's move on to number 5 right here. Oh, sorry. I guess we can do 3. Yeah, sorry. All right, here we go. Number 3. What do I get rid of first? The 4 or the -3? -3. Why the -3 and not the 4? Because it's not attached. So what number do I want there to be instead of -3? 0. How do I get from -3 to 0? I add 3. I got to go plus this time. I add 3. I add 3. Boom, boom. -39 plus 3 is -36 equals 4x. Now what, guys? What number do I want to be here instead of 4? A 1. So can I just do 4x minus 3? Why not? They're not like terms. That's why I got to divide. Any number divided by itself is always what? 1. So I divide by 4. Divide by 4. You get x, and then what's -36 divided by 4? Guys, did you know that that's why you divide and that's why you multiply? Did you know that? You probably were just taught this is what you do, and I mean that's what I teach when I'm in 7th grade too. So I don't blame them. But that's why. Does that help? Yeah. Yes. In 2 minutes. Let's do this guy. All right. What can this is number 4. I'm actually just gonna so this doesn't confuse us. Guys, what can I do? This is a different kind of problem. You've never done a problem like this before. Now I have 2 terms that have an x in them, but we just learned how to handle that. What do you think? No. Yeah.
Don't you cancel out the one, like,
I'm looking for a word. What can I do with those 2 terms? Starts with a C, but not cancel.
you put them together.
I combine them. 4x and -2x are like terms, right? So I can combine them. So what is 4x minus 2x? 2x. So here's what I write. I bring the 3 down. Now, is that a positive 2x or a negative 2x? Positive 2x. So what do I write next to 3? So plus 2x equals 35. Guys, why did I write plus 2x and not minus 2x? Tell me again. Because 4x minus 2x is a positive number. Now we're in a situation that we're familiar with. What do I do next, guys? Subtract 3, absolutely, all day. Subtract 3, subtract 3. Again, I want you to put the lines underneath. See how nice and neat mine looks? Well, maybe organized is the better, maybe not neat. Bring down 2x. 35 minus 3 is 32. Now what, guys? Why do I divide by 2? Because any number divided by itself is 1. And then I'm left with 1x, which is the same thing as just x. So you get x, divide this guy by 2, 32 divided by 2, x equals 16. Guys, if I plugged 16 into the original problem, what would happen? It would be true. It would work. All right, continuing. What do you guys think about this equation stuff? Easy? Hard? All right, number 5. Here we go. In number 5, is there anything for me to do first? Anything that I can combine? What? The 5 and the 9, and they're on the same side. So I'm not going to do anything with the 3y. First I'm not working with that. So I'm just going to bring down the 3y. 5 and negative 9 are like terms, and they're on the same side of the equation. So the first thing that I do is I combine them. So what's 5 minus 9? It's not 4. It's negative 4. So what do I write? No, I don't write plus. It's negative 4. So I just write minus 4. So 3y minus 4. Everybody go with why this is a minus sign and not a plus sign? Equals 8. All right. Now what, guys? Do I get rid of the 3 next or the negative 4? How do I do that? I add 4 because I want to get to 0. I add 4. So I do plus 4, put the line, plus 4, put the line, bring down the 3y. 8 plus 4 is 12. Yes? Now what? Why can't I just subtract 2? Isn't 3 minus 2 1? They're not like terms, so I'm going to divide by 3. Because, guys, what's 3 divided by 3? 1, and then you're left with 1y, which is the same thing as just y. Divide by 3, and your answer is y equals 4. Boom. Now, number 6. What do you think you do first in number 6? Looking for one word. I distribute. I distribute. What am I going to distribute? The 2. So let's go right here. What's 2 times x? Guys, it's helpful to write the loops. 2x. And then what else am I'm going to distribute 2 to the what? Don't say 5. That's not a 5. 2 to the negative 5. So what's 2 times negative 5? So 2x minus 10 equals 14. Now we're in a familiar situation. Again, guys, when you distribute, you got to understand the operation that's happening is multiplication. Multiplication. What do I do here? Yes? Add 10. I want that to get to 0, right? Add 10. Add 10. Whoops, I didn't need to bring down my equal sign right there. Pen is not working as well today. So 2x equals 24. Now what? And I get x equals 12. Let me watch this real fast. If I plug 12 into x, 12 minus 5 is 7. 7 times 2 is 14. It works. Almost done, guys. Almost done. 7's a little bit odd looking. What is the first thing I'm going to do, though? Distribute the 5. But I kind of do it backwards. Same thing, though, right? So what's 5 times n? 5n. And what's 5 times negative 2? Negative 10. Bring down the negative 20. Yes? Now what, guys? Add 10 to both sides because I'm trying to get n by itself. Add 10 to this side, add 10 to this side. Make sure you put your lines underneath. Negative, bring down the equal sign. Negative 20 plus 10 is negative 10. Bring down the 5n. What's next? Divide by 5. Divide by 5. What's negative 10 divided by 5? Negative 2 equals n. There's your answer. All right, number 8 is the most involved problem that we've done so far. This will be the last one that we do today. What do I do first? I want everyone to look at it for about 10 seconds, and you think what I want you to think about what you believe the answer to be. What would you do first? What do you think? Distribute. Okay, now here's another big question. What do you distribute? You do not distribute the 4. That's a negative 4. You have to see the negative sign in front of it. You're going to distribute the negative 4. Okay? Now watch this. I'm going to bring down the 3n. Yes? Because I'm not doing anything with that right away. You good? I'm going to distribute the negative 4. So guys, what's negative 4 times 2n? Negative 8n. What's negative 4 times what? What's negative 4 times negative 3? It's positive 12. So what do I write? Plus 12, because it's positive. You know, one of the most common mistakes that people make in algebra is this. They see that minus sign right there, and they automatically bring it down, but that's not how it works. You got to see what your product is going to be. You with me? Now what? I don't subtract the 12. There's something for me to do first. I can combine things, right? I have things that are on the same side. What are the two things? 3n and the negative 8n. So I combine them. What's 3n minus 8n? Negative 5n. So negative 5n plus 12 equals 37. Now what? Subtract 12. So I get negative 5n equals 37 minus 12, which is 25. Now what? Divide by negative 5. Divide by negative 5. And I get n equals negative 5. Not that hard, guys. You guys did a great job. Great job.